The BRZ is probably one of the more controversial cars on sale today. On one hand, you have people saying that this is way too underpowered, and rightfully so. 0 to 60 takes 6.4 seconds, while the EcoBoost Mustang is almost a second quicker. I, on the other hand, understand that this car was designed to deliver the purest driving experience possible. Let's see how that holds true 4 years later. The first thing you notice about the BRZ when you're driving on the street is just how stiff the suspension is. You feel every single detail on the road because this is a sports car after all and not a luxury cruiser. Despite that though, the dampers do a really good job of ironing out the major bumps on the road, so it's not entirely uncomfortable for your day-to-day commute. And that's the great thing about this car is that you can enjoy it every single day. You can enjoy its capabilities well within the legal limits of the law. That's part of the reason why a friend of mine ended up picking a BRZ as his daily driver. About a year ago, he was looking for a new car right after he graduated college. He wanted something that he could really be proud of, really enjoy driving to and from work. He really enjoyed the way that it drove. He loved the way that it looked. He loved the way that it just made him want to look at it a second time when he was leaving, when he was locking the door and he was walking away. That's a great thing about the BRZ is that even in regular traffic, even on regular roads, you can have fun and you can really understand and get a taste of what this car is all about. But enough chit chat. Let's see what the BRZ is like in its natural habitat, the back roads. I'm reminded of just how brilliant the BRZ's driving position is. The first time I drove one of these things, it was a Scion FRS, which of course is the BRZ's twin. I was 18 years old and my friend and I managed to convince the sales guy at a Toyota dealership to let us test drive. I was extremely impressed with the car back then, but of course I hadn't driven many cars at that point. Being back in the BRZ now, it reminds me that my initial impressions were not a simple holiday affair. Just like I was saying before, the BRZ's driving position is absolutely fabulous. I have quite a long pair of legs compared to the rest of my body, so I have to sit quite a ways away from the pedals and the steering wheel. And that often leaves me hanging right here with the steering wheel a little bit too far away from me. Fortunately, the BRZ has a telescoping steering wheel that allows me to set it just so. Looking forward, you notice just how high the dash is. It really gives you a sense of being low to the ground because you are. You feel cocooned in the cabin, and that's the point in a driver's car. With your feet on the pedals, you immediately feel at home. The pedals are perfectly spaced for heel and toe, and they look great as well. They're the typical Subaru STI pedals. Underway, the sense of being low to the ground is further confirmed. You feel in control of the car at all times. The steering is incredibly direct, decent feedback as well, and really accurate. Good weight as well, which is surprising considering it's an electrically assisted unit. Everybody's been moving to electrically assisted units recently, including Porsche, and as you know, the Porsche 911 has received a lot of criticism for the way its steering feels, because that's the one main characteristic of a Porsche 911. But the BRZ steering has actually received nothing but praise. Another thing you notice is the clutch is fantastically light. It makes driving really comfortable. It has really predictable engagement. You can really easily tell when the clutch is engaging. It makes it really easy to jump in and just operate. The brakes have great feel as well. They're incredibly sharp. Got good bite to them. So it really gives you confidence when you're going down the road and where you're really hammering down a corner. Gives you confidence that the car will in fact stop when you step on them. The shifter is a bit of a weak point for me. It's got really positive engagement. The shifts are nice and short, but just the amount of effort that it takes is a little bit more than I would like it to. You really got to force it into the gear that you want. But at least the engagement is positive. At least, it's very snatching, almost like a bolt-action rifle. It's something that even BMW hasn't been able to figure out with their rubbery shifters. Luckily, this is actually something that does go away over time. The car we're driving right now has about 15,000 miles, and the shifter is definitely a lot lighter than when the car was brand new. But a heavier gear shifter is not enough to spoil the fun. The BRZ continues to be one of my favorite chassis of all time. In an era where cars are getting heavier and heavier due to safety regulations, the BRZ is a refreshing throwback. It weighs just 2,700 pounds, and it's the weight, or rather the lack of, that really sets the car apart. Yes, the engine is underpowered, and yes, it desperately needs a turbo, and I have no idea why Subaru refuses to sell one with it. But this is the classic Japanese recipe that we've all been waiting for. A modestly powered engine with a fabulous chassis to make the most of what little power is there. Unlike every other Subaru, it's rear-wheel drive, which means Subaru was able to shift the engine and transmission much further back than they otherwise would have. Most of the engine's mass is behind the front wheels, making it almost mid-engine. The pivot point is much closer to the center of the car. This is one of the most satisfying cars to throw around in a corner, and I don't mean satisfying for under 30 grand, I mean satisfying, period. Congratulations on making it till the end of the video, but unfortunately you've wasted your time. By the time you watch this, the 2017 Subaru BRZ and Toyota 86 will have probably gone on sale. It's just a facelift, and manual versions will get a whopping boost of 5 horsepower and 5 pound-feet of torque. The front and rear look like Toyota and Subaru found inspiration in the aftermarket accessories section at O'Reilly's, and the new steering wheel is a little bit too fussy for my taste. Stereo controls have been added, and it's just not very visually pleasing to the eye. Oh, and fake carbon fiber gloss trim decor around the switches, if you're into that sort of thing, which I'm not. What are you doing?